Here's WJR's Kevin Deitz.
Well, it's been a wild week in Congress. Congressional leaders have been jockeying all week between trying to avert a federal government shutdown and figuring out what's going on with the bipartisan infrastructure bill. Not to mention that ticking time bomb on the debt limit. Well, they at least managed to prevent the shutdown from happening. Hundreds of thousands of non-essential federal employees would have been furloughed beginning Friday if Congress hadn't acted. Progressive and moderates within the House Democratic Party are leading competing factions towards a showdown possibly today. One side wants to delay that vote while others are pushing to proceed. It's a bit of chaos up in Congress, and joining us now to talk a little bit about it is David Dulio, professor of political science at Oakland University. Good morning, David. How are you?
I'm well, Kevin. Good morning.
Good morning. So the president got the extension into December on the debt ceiling. So they got one problem checked. Sorry, can you hear me, Dave?
I can, yes.
Oh, yeah. How important was it for them, for the president to get that extension on spending?
Critically important. As you mentioned at the top there, if they didn't get that done, the federal government would have shut down at the end of the fiscal year, which the new one starts today. So that was one fire that was put out at the Capitol this week, but it really just sort of kicks the can down the street to December, when there'll be another deadline on funding the federal government that comes up when this continuing resolution runs out, and they'll either pass another continuing resolution or fund the government for the next fiscal year.
So talk a little bit about that battle. Do both sides really have to eventually raise the debt ceiling? Can they really stop spending and shut down? Would either side be willing to do that?
Well, I think they're really two separate issues that are being packaged together for strategic reasons from actually both sides, right? I mean, there are two things that will need to get done. The government needs to be funded so that Social Security checks go out, so that parks are funded. Everything the federal government needs to do. If there's not an appropriations bill that has passed both houses of Congress and signed by the president, the federal government can't do anything. The debt limit is a problem because if the United States has reached that limit of what it is statutorily allowed to borrow, payments then can't be made. And it's a bit of brinksmanship, at least we think, because we've never been in this position before where we've run out of money or run out of borrowing authority. And if that happens, certain obligations can't be paid. And the thought is that it's really only a problem if we can't pay the debt service on the money we've already borrowed. And Congress can package them together as Democrats had wanted, or they can split them apart as Republicans had wanted. And it seems like Republicans got their way, at least initially.
What would happen if we stopped paying our debts? What would the result of that be on the world scale?
Yeah, nobody really knows, right? I mean, it's uncharted territory. And I think you'd probably have to ask an economist about the real financial implications. But some think that it's not that big a deal, and others think that it could cause chaos in the world financial market.
Politically, does it favor either side to draw this thing out and make it as dramatic as possible?
I don't think so, because I think for most Americans, this is what they hate about politics, and they just want their government to function, and they see the division, they see the brinksmanship, they see what they might call political games, and they don't like that. They just want their government to work efficiently and effectively, and the kind of back and forth and political strategy that seems to make its way into these things drives drives people crazy.
And yet, we seem to keep finding the drama. I mean, this infrastructure bill, we've been talking about for months, and it seemed like, the majority of Americans say, hey, we get it. We need to invest in roads and bridges. We need to make sure, that sewage is working. We're even on board with better Wi-Fi, things like that. And yet here we are, in this crazy week of, are there enough votes? Are there not enough votes? Will this be, the 1.2 trillion true infrastructure bill, or will it be tied in with the 3.5 billion, reconciliation bill? Why can't they figure out in Washington to give the people what they want, to go and pass a bill that will take care of what is absolutely necessary, and then if they want to debate or argue or fight about some of the wants that people have, do that separately and later? They can't seem to do that.
Well, this is life in Congress with very small majorities, right? Democrats, of course, control both chambers of Congress, but they do so with very few votes to spare. And there are factions within the Democratic Party in both chambers that can wield a great deal of power by withholding votes on either one of those packages, right? The moderates don't want to lend their support to the huge spending package, $3.5 trillion on Build Back Better, if they don't get the infrastructure bill passed first. But the progressives don't want to lend their support to the infrastructure package unless they get their way on the bigger package, right? So and they're kind of playing this game of chicken, and we'll see. And right now, the progressives are winning because we've had this vote scheduled in the House a couple of times on the infrastructure bill, but it's been pulled because the progressives have threatened to vote it down unless they get their way on the bigger package. And that's just the House, right? Then you've got to throw in the Senate and where Senator Manchin and where Senator Sinema are, and the negotiations there. Really, it's life in Congress with thin majorities, and it is all about negotiation.
Does this hurt people like Bernie Sanders? Does it hurt Nancy Pelosi? Does it hurt the Democrats in general when they can't come together on an issue like this?
I think it only hurts them if they fail to pass legislation at the end of the day. And it's not. I don't think it's anywhere near dead. But the longer it goes on, I think the more troubling it is. And it really is about, you hate to say it, I mean, us here in Michigan, but the real truth about this is that it depends on what a senator from West Virginia and what a senator from Arizona do, whether or not they support these things.
Yeah, it's I don't know if the world is watching closely, but for those of us who are, it is fascinating, and I guess we'll see what happens if there's a vote today or not. We'll have to wait and see. David Dulio, Professor of Political Science, Oakland University. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you.